start by reminding everybody that being physically active isn't optional if you want to feel and function as well as possible. Okay? Your health will never be close to optimized if you're not being physically active. Okay, we need to use our bodies to move them throughout our life, or we lose the ability to. I think I may have said at one point early in your process that there are 7 keys to optimal health and that they're all equally important. We need to pay attention to all of them. There are people that think, well, because I eat really well, I don't need to exercise. Or the opposite. Because I exercise 3 hours a day, I can eat whatever I want. Okay? You can do either of those things. But if you want to feel and function as well as possible, neither of those strategies is going to work very well. We have to be physically active on a consistent and regular basis, or we're not going to get the same results. Let's talk a little bit about some of the theory and what actually works, what some of the science says, and then I'll show you some things that work. So first of all, there are several of you here that probably want to build a little bit of muscle, right? Might want to get a little bigger. I mean, many of you want to build muscle, but I think you probably want to continue to lose a little bit of weight. And Dean, I'm guessing you probably don't want to continue to lose much weight. Right. So 2 different strategies. You're going to want to do some weight-bearing exercise, and you might want to do some cardio. And we'll talk about all the different things we need to focus on in just a moment. But since I've already gotten into it, for someone that wants to continue to lose weight, you want to finish up with cardio. And the reason why is because it keeps your metabolism faster longer. Okay? It doesn't speed it up permanently, but it keeps it elevated a little longer, which means what in terms of calories? You're burning more, right? So if you want to lose weight, you do a bunch of whatever exercise you're going to do, and then the last thing you do is you skip rope or you run or whatever it is. You get on the bike, whatever that is, you do that last. If losing weight isn't what you want to do, you definitely don't want to do that. You may want to do less cardio in general temporarily because you're going to speed up your metabolism, and it may be less valuable to you now. If you want to do some at all, you want to do it earlier so that the effect doesn't last as long. Does that make sense to everyone? So let's talk next about what are we trying to accomplish? When we talk about fitness, for instance, what is that? And what is it not? This is probably already obvious, but fitness isn't health, right? A lot of people think it is. A lot of people look at someone who's obviously fit and strong and think, well, they're healthy. Is that true? No, not at all. In order to be healthy, you need to be fit. But in order to be fit, you don't have to be healthy. I think I spoke to you about the client of mine who was a nationally ranked tennis player in the UK who lived on McDonald's. And he finally came to fast at the age of 39 because he was experiencing pain in his heart and carotid artery. His father, brother, uncle, and grandfather all died of heart disease, heart attacks. Okay? He was on his way to the same fate. He wasn't healthy. He was fit. Creating fitness is no more difficult than doing the physical activity. If you're physically active enough, you will become physically fit. But that won't make you healthy by itself. If you want to be healthy, physical fitness is required. You can't be fully healthy without it. Okay? So when we're talking about fitness, what are we talking about? What is that? Anybody? I would say there are 5 components, I believe, if I remember correctly. Strength, okay. Endurance. Flexibility. That's 3. Balance is 4. Stamina. I think that's endurance. Okay. Yeah, actually, I wasn't. I think what I used to talk about was 2 types of strength, and I think that was the 5th one. And what the 2 types of strength are power. Have you seen these? Like the strongest man competitions. The guy pulls a train with a chain. Can you imagine? I saw a guy actually lifting a tractor. Small tractor. No big deal. No big deal. That's power, right? And then there's explosive strength. Any runners here? Anyone? Any competitive runners or swimmers? So I was a competitive swimmer for many years, and they'd fire a gun, and whoever got into the pool the furthest, the fastest, had a huge advantage, right? When the gun went off, the faster and more powerful you could explode off of those blocks into the pool to get further along. I mean, now the other guy had to catch up, right? Just because you were stronger. The same is true in a sprint. It's obviously the longer the run, the less important this is. So in a marathon, people aren't even, it doesn't even matter. It's like they're just going whenever they go, right? They're not like, not too many people I think are worried about being in front in those first 5 feet. But if you're running a 50-yard dash, you got to start off as fast as possible, okay? Because we're talking about a few seconds only, right? A tiny fraction of a second makes a big difference. 2 different types of strength: power, explosive strength, explosive power. Okay? Why is flexibility important? Yeah, prevents injury. Who do you think is more likely to get injured? Someone who's flexible or someone who's not flexible? Right? Flexibility makes you much less prone to injury. How about balance? I would say it's similar. Now, balance as we get older becomes more and more important. Right? A lot of elderly people lose their balance, fall down, break their hip, and that's it. They're usually dead within a couple of years. It's the beginning of the end. Okay? It's very difficult for most older people to recover from. So we want to make sure we maintain or create, if we don't have balance, we want to create that, maintain that. Okay? And then endurance. Endurance, I mean, this may not be very likely, but did I tell you about the time I was hiking up in the Appalachian Mountains, and it came around a bend in the trail, and there was a big bear. And I was with a friend, and I very slowly got down I took off my pack and got down and started to unlace my hiking boots. My friend said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going to put on my running shoes." He said, "You can't outrun a bear." I said, "No, I don't have to. I just have to outrun you." And endurance is important, right? But it's more than that. What else does it do? What is endurance? What else does it mean? I may have talked to you guys about what happens when we see runners, competitive runners, cyclists, swimmers here. We're checking their daily vital signs. What do we normally see?
Low heart rate.
Low heart rates, yeah. Why? The heart is strong. The heart is strong from all that activity, from that endurance. And each time it beats, it pushes more blood. Now, I may be wrong, but my guess is, because we are physical organisms, we're still affected by the physical laws of nature. And the more we work something, it seems reasonable to me, the faster it's going to wear out. When we see runners, swimmers, cyclists, their heart rate's usually in the 40s and sometimes in the 30s. So half of the heart rate of somebody their own age who's not doing that in many cases. There are many people who have a heart rate of 72 or more. Okay, you could have half that heart rate. That's a lot of beats per year that you're saving, that your heart's not having to do. I think that's going to be really good for you. Okay, you're also going to feel better. When you feel anxious, what happens to your heart rate? Goes up. And when your heart rate goes up, guess what? You tend to feel more anxious. When you're calm, your heart slows down. Okay, we want to create a nice, healthy, strong heart that can beat as slowly as possible. Okay, we're going to feel better, we're going to feel calmer, we're going to be able to better interact with whatever's happening. Okay, that's what happens. All right, so these things are all important. We want to accomplish all of them. Fortunately, we can accomplish all of them relatively easily. And I want you to notice the cats. They will do absolutely nothing, and then they'll see a bird and run full speed up a tree, 20 feet. Okay? And my point is, gorillas, you've all seen nature documentaries, right? You probably noticed that it's common for a gorilla to find a big rock or a giant log, pick it up, lift it over its head, put it down, and then do it again 9 more times. Right? No! Animals don't work out. They don't. They're physically active as part of their life. Right? They climb trees, they go hunt prey if they're predators. They move around. They don't get in cars that often. Right? They're not usually on bicycles. They're usually using their own body to move their own body around. But they don't actively exercise. And I used to teach that we didn't need to either. In fact, I taught that until we moved to Panama, when our internship program changed. And for the first time, my interns, there would be 4 at a time, they had to do an exercise class with me 5 days a week for an hour. And that's when I realized just how terribly out of shape most people were. And I thought, if these people had to go out into nature, jump up, grab the branch of a tree, and pull themselves up into it to eat, they'd be hungry. Okay? They wouldn't be able to get food. There are probably some people here that wouldn't be able to get food if you had to rely on your own self to get up into the trees to get it. No ladders, right? Just you and the tree. Okay? So that's not functional. We want to create something that's functional. Now, notice that we don't actually that often need to lift a tractor or pull a train. We don't have to become massive hulks in order to be healthy, and in fact, we can't. Creating that level, that quantity of muscle mass, which is unlikely for women. You have to have a lot of male hormones to do that kind of bulk. But having that kind of muscle mass is actually counterproductive if you want to be healthy. Those people tend to not live very long. It's not a good thing for your health. Okay? In fact, what's been very clearly demonstrated is that couch potatoes, people who aren't, and today it's easy. I mean, in the old days, again, most people were physically active. Today, how many people here have a physical job? Most of us sit at a computer or talk on a phone or maybe talk to people, but we're not being physically active all day long as part of our work. Okay? So if we're not consciously, purposely doing it, it might not be happening. But it's been clearly shown that people who don't do much, if any exercise, aren't very healthy. And people who do a lot of exercise are less healthy than people who do some. We want to do a moderate amount, not too much. Okay, exercising creates free radicals, and if we're being overly physically active, your body may not be recovering so well. We don't want to do that. Okay, but we need to be active. Now, the good news is that once our bodies are functioning as well as animals in nature, they're clean and efficient and functioning well, it doesn't require a lot of work to maintain strength and flexibility. Okay? I mean, I find that I can maintain mine fairly well without doing much. There's no question, when I work out every day, I'm stronger and more fit. No question about it. It's obvious. But even without doing much at all, I can maintain it pretty well. Strength and flexibility, because flexibility is partially governed by hydration levels. Exactly. Think about it. A dehydrated muscle is going to be a lot less flexible than one that's hydrated. Okay? You guys are going to leave here. You've created the conditions to get hydrated. You might not be hydrated by the time you leave here, but you've created the conditions. And if you keep making excellent choices, your hydration is going to ramp up significantly. Okay? So that goes a long way. A couple more things I'll share with you. When you're in a situation where you can't exercise, I think we talked about this at one point. I'm not sure if you were all here yet, but astronauts in the U.S. NASA space program, astronauts are in cramped quarters sometimes for quite a while and don't have much ability to exercise. What they've been trained to do is to close their eyes and imagine that see themselves visualize themselves exercising, and their muscles fire, and they maintain strength. It's not the same, but it's pretty close. It's pretty close. Okay? So there's no substitute for actually being physically active, but this is something you can do when you really can't. There's another piece, and I'll bring it up now since I've already started to mention it. Let's say you're all going to be flying home sometime soon, right? In some cases, you got a long flight, right? You can do isometrics, which is one muscle against another. So I'll show you a couple of simple things right now. You can take your arms, put them basically chest or shoulder level. Don't go knuckle on knuckle, go between, and push as hard as you can. Take one hand up, other hand down, pull as hard as you can. Feel that? It's powerful. Okay, make sure, now notice, can you see on me, on the right arm, bicep is activated, on the left arm it's tricep, because of the position of my hands. So you want to go the other way, too. You want to make sure you go both ways. They're different. Okay, you're focusing on different muscles in each arm, depending on the position of your hands. Okay, we did this, you can also go here, and because your hands are a little closer together, you're changing the emphasis on the muscles that are being worked. Can you feel that? Yeah. Now right here on this plane is where you've got the most benefit. Here or here. But you can also take it up, and it's different. Now you're changing the focus on the muscles. You can take it down below. You can take it behind your head. You're changing the focus. There's a couple you can do for your legs as well. Right now while you're sitting here, if you're sitting, bring your knees together and squeeze as hard as you can. You feel that? Between your thighs, you have adductor muscles. In most people over the age of 15, it's all jello. Right? There's nothing happening there. And the reason why is simple. Because we live on flat planes, constructed artificial surfaces that are flat most of the time. Most people don't spend a lot of time on hills or inclines like this. It's pretty much all flat planes. You're not using these muscles very much. This one's a little harder in this position. I like this better with knees up. I'll take my elbows around my knees and I'll push out again. So I'm pushing that way, but I'm using my arms to prevent that from happening. And I'm feeling this in my abductors down here on the outside of my thighs and my glutes. Can you feel that? Okay. Again, these are simple, powerful exercises that you can do without needing any equipment and even much space. Now, if you're in a seat like, I think most of the airline seats, there's an armrest, right? You can put your arms next to the armrest. And here what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to do that. I'm pushing like that. But the armrests make sure I can't move my arms. So I can do this work while I'm sitting right here talking to you. Okay? I can keep working that. There's a lot of things like this you can do. You can work your wrists this way. Here I'm going to try to push my hand up, but I'm preventing that from happening. So I'm working the muscles in my wrists and forearms. Can you feel it? Okay, make sure you do both sides. And there's an infinite number of these that you can come up with. Okay? About 30 seconds. Yep.
As hard as you can.
Yep, that's what I like to do. I like this one too. Take your arms out in front of you, intertwine your fingers, and pull like you're trying to move your arms this way, but don't let go. They can't go anywhere. Straight arms, no bend. You feel that? You should feel that across your shoulders, right here in your chest. It's powerful. There are a lot of things you can do with no equipment whatsoever. Okay, just moving your own body weight around. I used to lift weights. I hurt myself many times. I believe body weight exercises are much safer. Much safer. Okay, so that's what I'd recommend. Let's talk about a study, I think it was the University of Texas several years ago. that said over 90% of the benefits of an exercise are derived in the first set. So if you're one of those people that go to the gym and spend hours doing the same thing over and over again, they're saying you're getting most of the benefit by doing one set of the exercise. Let's talk about coming back to basics. There are tons of things you can do these days. Everyone's always inventing new exercises and etc. And that's fine. You can keep it interesting. But the basics, the stuff we learned as kids, it's powerful if you do it. Okay? To warm up, I like to do jumping jacks. Well, most adults don't do jumping jacks, but they're great. You get your body moving, you get your heart rate up, you warm things up, so you're less likely to hurt yourself. Okay, and you're moving most of your body. It's good stuff. Push-ups are amazing. Okay, everyone knows how to do a push-up. If you can do a push-up, they're fantastic. And if you can't, I'll show you some things you can do to get there. One of them is the knee push-up, but there's other ways. Okay, in case we don't have time to get to it, you can push up against a wall. The other piece that I think that's really important to understand is the negative. Every exercise has a positive and a negative phase. The exercise is usually named for the positive phase. So the positive phase of a pull-up is when you pull up. Okay? The negative phase is when you go down. So there are probably people here that can't do a pull-up. But everybody can go down. Gravity assures that. Okay? Everyone's going down. What you do is you try to go down slowly in a controlled way. Because you can build the muscle doing just negatives. So let's say push-ups is another possibility. Let's say you can't do a push-up. You can get into the plank position, high plank. Okay, and I'll show you what that is if you don't know. And you can go down, that's the starting position of the push-up. You go down as slowly as you can. You're working the same muscles. That's a way to start doing the exercise if you're not strong enough to do it yet. One more piece. Probably most of you learned something differently, but you may have heard what I heard when I was a kid. When I was a kid, they would tell us to stretch first. First thing you do is stretch. Bad idea. You don't ever want to stretch a cold muscle. That's why I'll do something like jumping jacks and a few other exercises which are easy, don't require any significant amount of strength, but allow me to warm my body up. Okay? And then if you need to stretch, you can stretch. Frankly, what I find is that by staying hydrated, I don't really need to do a lot of stretching. My muscles are loose enough to do whatever I need to without hurting myself in almost every case. I know one of the reasons a lot of people don't exercise is they say, I'm too busy, I don't have time. Right? So I'm going to show you a couple exercises that you can probably exhaust yourself doing in 5 minutes. And if you only had 10 minutes a day and you just did these two exercises, you'd be amazed by the transformation in a month or 2 months. It's amazing what happens. Okay? If you don't do it and you keep thinking about doing it, not much is going to transform, or it's going to transform in a negative way. Right? It's not what you want. But if you're willing to just to get into it, do what you can, and do it consistently, you're going to be amazed by how quickly the transformation happens. I'll go into demonstrating some things for you, and I'll take questions while we're doing that.